Welcome back to the arena. I'm Michael Coran. Now, enlightened self-interest, splendid isolation, imperialism, intervention. Should the West become involved in foreign disputes out of ethical standards or mere self-defense? It's complex and nuanced, so we needed someone who's also complex and nuanced. We couldn't find one, so instead we got foreign affairs specialist Alex Mihailovic. Now, it's a very good question, and it defies the liberal or conservative label. To intervene in a foreign war, it doesn't seem to achieve that much in the long run, in the long term. And a lot of people die, and a lot of money is spent. And should we not be spending this on what people need in Canada or the US or the UK or elsewhere?
Well, that's exactly the question that we're asking, the question I hope to answer. I mean, a lot of money spent, and our reasoning to going to war many a time is just a little odd. It doesn't seem to be solutions. Like, we can't really provide solutions to many of these countries and many of these situations. Second of all, well, you know what? It's kind of none of our business really in many of these situations as well. Yeah, you know, there's that moral, ethical, like, oh, we need to help everybody around this world. But sometimes the right thing to do is to help yourselves first. And that's why I kind of went back in history of almost 25 years, all the way back to Panama, which we're going to skip. I mean, Panama itself is one of those things that you can debate what happened there. Well, let's just put it this way. Noriega was a guy that was paid off by the CIA for a long, long time, for about 20 years. And all of a sudden, 4,000 people died in that country when the U.S. invaded back in 1989, and it wasn't the best of situations. Now, again, moral dispute of what really went down there. We move ourselves to Gulf War I. We know that Saddam Hussein was backed by the U.S. for a very long time, and when he decided to go into Kuwait for a couple of reasons. First of all, the Kuwaitis were screwing him when it came to oil prices because they wanted the OPEC prices fluctuated, as well as that they were doing some angular drilling into Iraq to take oil from him. And what did the U.S. say to Saddam Hussein at that time? Well, they said, you know what, we're not going to get involved in Arab versus Arab situations.
Well, an ambassador did at the time, and may have misled him. But you would agree Saddam Hussein was a threat to our allies. He was a threat to Israel. I think he should have been removed in a far more delicate way. I don't understand why we couldn't have removed him and his small group of chief advisors and helpers.
But that's exactly where it comes down to the line of us getting involved in these situations, the West. Who put Saddam Hussein there in the first place? And he did have help from the West at the time when he came there. So, you know, break it all down. You go into the Bosnia, where we've left basically an open wound in Europe. We know that in Bosnia right now, their government has the lowest approval rating in the whole entire world at 8%, because it's divided into a triad of governments, which is the Serbs, the Croats, and the Muslims, right? And they have a rotating, basically, presidency of these three groups. So nobody really agrees with this, and that's what Bosnia looks like. You have the Serbian, Republika Srpska, their little republic there, and then you have the Bosnia-Herzegovina Muslim Croat Federation. This is not a solution. We're not providing any of these people solutions. Kosovo, we left with a mafia-run government.
That I never understood. I never understood why we aided.
Now with Kosovo, we're hearing more and more people are going to fight with ISIS in the hundreds.
I think Afghanistan was justified because we did have treaties with the United States, and an ally was directly attacked by people who were trained and based in Afghanistan. We asked the Taliban to allow the Americans to go in there and take them. They said no. I can see that war, I think, was justified.
Justified,
didn't
but
achieve
not
very
completed.
much.
That's again,
exactly. But Iraq, good Lord, I have no time for Saddam Hussein. But look at Iraq now. Are we going to argue that there is less human suffering than there was?
Well, absolutely not. And think about the fact that who Saddam Hussein was jailing, just like Assad in Syria. These are the people that we're fighting right now. These are the extremists that were in those countries. But let's break it down. One of the most important points here, I think, are the costs, the actually financial costs. The operations against Serbia, 78 days of bombing because of Kosovo, cost about $55 billion. That's enough to feed the world, really, for 3 years. Then you break down from 2001 till now how much the U.S. has spent. $4.4 trillion. Trillion dollars. That's 1,000 billion times 4.4. It's an unbelievable amount of money. And just so we can break it down and get sort of fathom what this actually means, we could feed the world for 50 years with this. We could build three things we can do right now. We can build over 1 billion clean water wells. We can everybody who has cataract problems, which is massive in the third world, where people are going blind, we can heal all those people about 35 times over. And on top of that, we can build homes for all the people that are homeless in the world. That's how much money this is. This is an amazing amount of money. Think of just from a different perspective now, the number of commercial airlines in the world right now. There's about 20,000 planes flying. The Airbus A380, which is a gorgeous, massive plane, 15,000 of those we can buy with that amount of money. So we could basically replace every plane up in the air.
Now,
it's such a huge amount of cash.
Well, he's giving a left-wing analysis of world affairs, but there are many in the conservative movement in this country, and particularly the United States, and France, but other parts of Europe too, who are conservative, who have this point of view. They're not anti-American. They just say the West should look after itself. If the West is under direct threat, fine, then we get involved. But in wars where... and I don't think it's as simple as just being about oil. I just don't believe that's the only issue.
Let me ask you, is Ron Paul a leftist? Is Patrick Buchanan a leftist? No. And these are two people that believe that the U.S. needs to take care of its own problems before it starts going anywhere else. And as Canadians, I mean, we have to follow suit in that. We have our own issues that we can take care of. This is a lot of money that could go to cancer research, that could go to a lot of places to help our own people instead of going someplace to fight wars that we're not winning.
When the Soviet Union was a power, I could see an argument that we had to counter them. Yes, we may have been playing dirty politics, but the Soviet Union had to be resisted. It's gone now. Russia has ambitions. China certainly has economic ambitions, but I don't think we deal with them with warfare. And if there is one tangible threat, it's Islamic radicalism. And we should be building bridges with those in a common front, but we're not doing that.
Defense spending is one thing, but this is not even defense spending. This is actually waging war, and waging war ineffectively, not finishing the job. We know that with Japan, with Germany after the Second World War, yes, those two countries became democracy, but it took decades of the West being there in those countries after we took them from the Axis powers to actually put these things and to entrench these values. We're not doing that anymore, and we're not dealing with Japan or Germany when we're in the Middle East either. Let's not forget that.
That's very true. A lot of questions do have to be asked. What disappoints me is too often the answers come packaged in left-wing slogans, and that is no solution to anything. There is another way to look at a world affairs in an intelligent, conservative manner and realize that the age of the great empires and gunboat diplomacy are long gone. Fascinating stuff. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.